And I want to thank all of you for joining us. This is a Sonny Hersh production. My co-host is Jim Nally. What you missed in the first half is a discussion between Jim and I, together with a live studio and a live call-in, which was Clerk of the Circuit Court Dorothy Brown, and we want to thank her very much. Our regular show, the Northtown News Magazine, is on Thursday at 7:30 p.m., Friday at 2:30 p.m. on CAN TV 19. Everything's on YouTube. Go to our website at ntnm.org, or check out well, you can check me out at Facebook, Avi Myers, or go to aviworld.com for Jewish Chicago, which is out and available everywhere and running out. And at this point, I want to welcome all of you, and I want to say hello to our in-studio guest, the state's attorney of Cook County, Anita Alvarez. How are you?
Hi, Abby. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. Good to see you, and I'm glad you can make it.
Of course.
And yeah, with these new regulations, somebody had to come first to check the place out for bombs and things.
make sure you're okay, Abby.
Yeah, definitely. So how's the campaign trail?
Everything's going good. I mean, I've been busy running around Cook County, as you know, very large county. Just making, very different neighborhoods, going and speaking to groups, and just like a regular campaign, I'm going. Yeah.
Oh, I want to thank Sally Daly Hunt, and I want to thank, and by the way, I'm supposed to look at the camera. I know I want to look at you, but, got to do my instincts. I want to thank Sally Daly Hunt. I want to thank Philip, and of course, hi, Mark Kirk. Wait, not Mark. Dan.
Dan.
Sorry about that. We were talking about the Senate before, but I want to thank all of them for helping making this possible. Let's talk a little bit about your first 3.5 years as state's attorney, and what are some of the let's talk about the good stuff first. Let's talk about what you're happy about that did get accomplished during that time.
Well, first of all, I can't believe that I'm up for re-election, and these 3.5 years have just flown by. But I'm really happy that I have run this office and will continue to run this office, with a lot of integrity. There were a lot of issues that were facing me when I took over, and I'm very proud of the initiatives that we've started. There's so many to name, but I'll just highlight a few. Obviously, when I was running the first time, it was easy. It was clear to me that no matter where you live in this county, whether you live in Englewood, whether you live in Skokie, wherever you're at, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants their children to be safe, going to school, going to church, going to a park. And that's our number one concern as state's attorneys, is public safety. And so when I took over, we looked at our gun laws and some of the areas where we thought we might be able to improve. And I'm very proud of our Valadez law, and that bill was named after a Chicago police officer, Alejandro Valadez, who lost his life responding to a call of shots fired. And what that bill allows us to do is that known gang members who are found on the street with a loaded weapon, it is now a non-probationable offense. It used to be probationable. And the reason this bill was named after him is because one of the offenders on his case, a case that I'm personally handling, was on probation for a gun offense. And so once we were able to pass it in Springfield, we thought what a great honor it would be to name the bill after him. And so I'm very happy with the numbers that we've seen on the Valadez law, the offenders that we've charged under that particular statute. And interestingly enough, we've seen that they've been pleading guilty, more so than taking a trial.
Great.
And so they're pleading and taking the time. So I'm very proud of that. We have a new task force with human trafficking, which of course is an issue that most people think only happens in another country, right?
Matter of fact, that was going to be Jim Nally's question for you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
No, it's fine. I mean, he has 14 more, don't worry.
When you talk about it, I mean, there's domestic human trafficking. There are children who are born and raised right here who are being forced, particularly young girls, forced into a life of prostitution. And the sex trafficking is really rampant here in Chicago. And because we are, first of all, a transportation hub, a visitor hub, we're a wonderful city, convention hub, people come here, and as a result of that, the environment breeds this kind of a crime. And so we were one of only 3 jurisdictions in the country to get a grant in order to put a new human trafficking task force together, which includes us and the Chicago Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Department, and so we're all working on this together. and I'm very proud of the fact that we're making some great strides when you're talking about young kids who are being forced into a life that we know is not a life that they want to be in or they choose to be in. And we really have to make people aware that it occurs here. It occurs not just in some foreign country. It occurs right here in our own backyards, and so we have to really be on top of these things. And we changed the law in Illinois. The Illinois Safe Children's Act is our new law, which went into effect 2 years ago. We were very proud of the fact that we were able to get that passed with one try, because you already know how difficult it is to get things passed down in Springfield.
Extremely.
It doesn't always work the way you want it. But this particular law, Illinois Safe Children's Act, it does a lot of different things, but the first thing it does is decriminalizes juvenile prostitution, takes those words right out of the statute, because when you think about it, you know, if a young girl, 11, 12 years old, is found on the street, you know, she's not doing this because she wants to or she chooses to do this. Someone's putting her in this position. And so what good is it to take her off the street and throw her into the juvenile detention center? We should be getting her the services and the help that she needs, and boys too, young men as well. And rescuing them, because they need long-term help.
Absolutely. What a lot of people don't realize, okay, think about it, because, you know, like, there's a lot of you guys that do this stuff, not necessarily like everybody watching the show, but you know what? If you're cruising around the street and you see some little girl on a street corner, okay, chances are she's not a free agent. She's in slavery. And what you're actually doing is abusing her and kicking money to advance the career of somebody who's going to kidnap or purchase more girls. And, you know, you got to think about something like that. Is what you really want to do that important? To you know, that makes you a real bad guy. You can't do that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So we're happy with our human trafficking initiative. We're seeing more cases come out of that new statute, which is a wonderful thing.
No, absolutely. Let me ask you, what do you find disappointing from your first term in office? And I don't necessarily mean a personal failing, but there's no way you can get everything accomplished, and life throws you surprises. The Cook County Board throws you a budget cut, you know.
There, you hit the nail on the head. Last year, we really we took a big cut in our budget, and we had to fire 73 people from our administrative side, which really has hurt us tremendously. And these were people who, they weren't open positions, because you always hear that through the budget process, like, oh, well, you know, you've got 10 open positions, 20. Well, we don't have open positions. 95% of our budget is personnel. And it was a terrible feeling to have to lay off employees who have worked 10, 15 years for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. But because of the budget, we were in that position, and so we're hoping this time around, which actually my budget address is coming up on Wednesday, that we don't suffer those kinds of losses this year, because we just can't can't continue to do the job that we do with less and less people. So that's the challenging part of this position. You know, serving the victims of crime and being in court, those are things I love and I'm comfortable with. The budget process is something that it takes getting used to. And then, you know, the other thing too is, you know, the criticism that you get from the media when, you know, there's a motto in our office always is to do the right thing. And when you, as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, analyze a case and, you know, make a decision, you know, you can't please everybody, but, you know, sometimes the criticism, it's like Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Everybody knows, you know, everybody's an expert. Everybody's an expert on how a case should be handled. And so that gets frustrating, you know, to know you've done something ethically, and you open the paper and there's a headline that
actually,
tells everybody you did something wrong.
It's a condition of the world these days with the talk radio, be it sports or be it politics, and then the newspapers make themselves thinner and narrower and less knowledgeable by jumping on headlines and not looking at content. It's a problem. Jim?
Yeah,
question.
well,
Yeah.
I did want to point out on the human trafficking issue, your office really is distinctive in that that's normally handled at a national level. And what you're doing on a local level is probably pretty unique throughout the United States. Is that something that came to you on a case-by-case basis, or how did you decide to take a leadership issue on that?
You know, when we started to look at how we handled these types of cases traditionally in our office, and when you looked at it, we weren't doing a very good job, because what would happen in the past is a young girl or a young boy would get picked up, taken over to juvenile court, spend a day or two there, and then put back out on the street. And then if we had arrested the pimp, we expected that young person to testify against the pimp, and I think there's a million reasons why that's a difficult thing to do. And so what were we doing? We weren't doing anything. This kid was back out on the street in a day or two, and we weren't convicting the bad guys. So we said we have to look at this a different way. We have to work up these cases differently. And we have we talk about that it's victim-centered, but not victim-based, and that's our theory now, because in the past all we did was rely on that victim to try to get the bad guy, and it didn't work. So now we have to build evidence against the person who's putting this child out on the street in a different way. And so that's why this new law is great, because it allows us, for the first time in the history of Illinois, it gives us the opportunity to do a wire on these types of cases. Because we've always had that opportunity to do a state wire on drug cases, people selling drugs, but not people selling children. That's a little backwards. So this new law allows us to do that. And so we can go up on wires on this type of crime, and we're not solely relying on that victim to testify against the perpetrator. And so we're getting evidence in a different way, a different fashion, kind of like you work up a financial crimes case. So that's the idea, and what we've seen so far, knock on wood, has been successful. And we were the first state to use a wire on a human trafficking case. And in fact, after we did it, we got a call from some investigators in Florida that said that they were trying to be the first, and we beat them to it. So, but it's great because, Jim, it's something that we have to remind people, as I said earlier, that it's a problem domestically. And so we need to look at it as local prosecutors and not just kind of wait for the U.S. Attorney's Office to handle these types of cases.
Interesting. One question. I was just something that crossed my mind. When you wire somebody, are they afraid of being discovered when they're wired?
Well, sometimes, sometimes, but for the most part, we have people who cooperate that'll help us in our investigation.
Now, okay, dumb question. With today's all modern technology and all the advances and all that, would there be some way to maybe just inject something in somebody's shoulder and have that work that way?
I don't know about that. You'd have to have my tech experts tell you about that.
I mean, I was just curious because I would think that would be a little more hidden. That's something that.
But I think the technology has advanced, so it's not the same way they did wires 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, just asking, what are your plans for your second term?
My plans for one thing that I want to reintroduce at the next legislative session, we had a bill for the past 3 years and it's never been able to pass down in Springfield, is our lost and stolen bill. And what that is and I think it's important when we see all this gun violence, that bill, what we were asking is that if you are a gun owner and your gun is lost or stolen, that you report that gun lost or stolen and within 72 hours of discovering it. That is, we, report our bikes or, whatever, anything else that's stolen from us. We report that, don't we? So the thought process behind lost or stolen was to try to see if we can't do a better job at really getting those straw buyers, because we know that exists. There are people out there who have a valid FOID card, and they go out and they purchase several guns. And then, as what we've seen every day here in Chicago, is that these guns are just landing in the hands of gangbangers. So we put forth that bill. It hasn't passed, but I think it's important. I think it's a common sense bill. It's a common sense law that will help law enforcement tremendously. So that'll be one of my initiatives, in the next spring session, the next legislative session, and just to continue, obviously, to do what we've been doing in the state's attorney's office. You know, our community offices, our community justice centers are going quite well, and we've actually the University of Chicago Crime Lab did a study looking at community prosecutions and whether or not community prosecution works. And so they looked here at Chicago and in the Midwest. Milwaukee has some community prosecutions offices, Minneapolis. And the result of that research was that it does work to help reduce certain crimes, certainly not all crimes, but certain crimes. And those community offices that, you know, there's one up on Foster and
Right.
Western.
Yeah.
And the last one we opened was centrally located over by UIC. And you know, they're tremendous because it's an opportunity for people to, you know, they can stop in and ask a question. If, you know, sometimes it doesn't result in criminal charges, but quality of life issues are, you know, we are able to help people. And in some cases, particularly mortgage fraud cases, because we have a mortgage fraud assistant in each office, people have walked in with their documents and we've been able to get cases out of it and charge offenders. And so we're happy with that. So we want to continue with that. And I know there are many communities that want one. We can't, you know, we can't open up one in every community, but we've got 4 now, and we're really happy with that.
Well, that's an achievement that you can look back on. And what would you say is the singular thing that you're most proud of that you've done since you become state's attorney?
Well, you know, I'm proud of the fact that I continue to run this office with integrity, and we're doing more these days with less. You know, my assistants are being asked to do more, and they're not getting raises, and they're, you know, and we all know you don't get rich on being a state's attorney. But to continue to do the job that we first of all we love to do, and to serve the victims of crime, and I think that you know, this office, I believe, is in better shape. You know, we made a lot of organizational changes, I think all for the better. So we do get more bang for our buck, so to speak. And so I just want to continue to do that.
One of the things I wanted to say to you about, and I got to remember to look at the camera, so even though I'm talking to her there, you know, I'm just trying to get the, you know, I really like the neighborhood prosecution and the community thing. I don't think people realize the value of something like that, and people feel it's more accessible. When you've got to run downtown and go to these foreboding buildings and these huge offices, it becomes so impersonal. A person loses themselves in the shuffle. When it's a smaller office and more personable, it makes a big difference. The same way, and this is me talking, not my guess, Superintendent McCarthy and Mayor Emanuel ought to consider community policing, which has 0 in the budget for the next fiscal year, which is a huge mistake, but that's my own political statement here. Any last words?
Just that I love being Cook County State's Attorney. I love this job, and I will continue, you know, come November 6th. Can I say punch 51?
Please, absolutely.
That's my punch number, punch 51.
I'll be punching 51. See, Dorothy Brown had a better rhyme, but that's
oh,
her speed.
Okay, okay.
No, you know, have some fun, punch 51. I don't
There you go, that's good, yeah. So, you know, with the support of everyone watching today, you know, I think I can continue to serve all of you as Cook County State's Attorney.
And by the way, look for Anita Alvarez on the cover of Jewish Chicago. She's actually a cover person. And we do endorse her both in the issue, and we haven't done it personally on the Northtown News Magazine, but we'll do it on the Sonny Hersh election special. I will be voting for you early and often. Please don't prosecute me.
Thanks, Avi.
And I want to thank Sally, and I want to thank Dan, and I want to thank Philip. And now, okay, she's going to get up. I've got to talk, so you can see that happen. But Anita, thank you so much.
Thanks, Avi. Thanks.
Okay, and thank you so much for coming here. And
course.
let them unmic you first.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I don't want to get up and...
Don't want to trip on that. So I'll have to contact you another time. But I want to thank so much Anita Alvarez. You know, Terry, we have about 10 minutes left. And one of the things I really want to talk about is the Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, because we have a serious brain drain that's about to occur. And basically, the person that I consider to be the best elected official in the state of Illinois, Although Anita Alvarez is getting closer, I will say that for her. I happen to like her a lot, and I'm glad she was able to make it. And I'm sorry I can't say hi to the people outside, but we're on air, and she's got another stop. Is the president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, who, by the way, took us both for a boat ride, you know, given full honesty. Well, actually, he took us for a trip down the deep tunnel. I went on the boat ride. And that, of course, is Terry O'Brien. And, you know, let's talk about what Terry has accomplished during the time that he's been president. When he actually ran, people don't realize he ran against the Democratic organization. He didn't even have the support of his own ward committeeman, okay? And he actually won the election. Okay, and then about something like 7 years into the office, big scandal with the president. They needed somebody who was the honest, independent, do-gooder guy, which he still is and then some, and even smarter at it than he was then, due to experience, and they picked Terry O'Brien, who's been unanimously elected every single year since as president. Since the time he's been there, they have had something like a 35% reduction in manpower without firing or laying off a single person. Not only that, they're the only pension fund in the entire state that isn't in trouble. They're 100% on track because they've done things right. They've rebated money from their taxes back to the county, you know, which no other agency has done, and they have created a large amounts of income from their rental property in very creative ways and very, very much within the law. And not to mention the fact that they have a AAA bond rating, which is higher than the United States of America. It's about 47 grades higher than the state of Illinois. It's higher than the county of Cook. It's higher than the city of Chicago. It's the highest possible grade you can possibly get, whether you're a government or a business. And he keeps it up. And then those morons on the press, be it the moron on WFLD or the moron on the Tribune, and I'm not mentioning their names because I did use that particular term right now, so I won't use it. But, you know, they're busy criticizing this guy for having a AAA bond rating and second guessing how he can waste money and throw himself, you know, into an A or an A- bond rating, if not a B+. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, Avi, you and I both know Terry. We've known him because he grew up in our community, and we've known him for many, many years. And he's never really left that sense of community. He's been a person who's approached the job with the idea of how am I going to do this in a way that's efficient, that benefits the taxpayer, and gets the important things done. And for 24 years, Terry's been a commissioner. He's retiring this year as president of the board. As you pointed out, he came in under very difficult circumstances where a prior president had gone to jail over official misconduct. And Terry took this agency and put it on such a firm footing. Terry's going to be leaving an agency where there have been no layoffs, no furlough days for employees because of budget problems, because they thought ahead and did budgeting correctly. He's going to leave it, as you said, with a AAA bond rating, which no government agency has in this day and age. Terry's most recent accomplishment was to go down to Springfield, and in this whole mess with public pensions and issues, he got labor, he got management to sit around the table at the district and come up with a plan for the future. And keep in mind, Terry's leaving the district, so this isn't something he had to do because he was going to be there and have to deal with the problem down the road. Terry sat everyone down at the table and said, look, how can we plan responsibly to make sure that in the future we're not going to have a pension crisis here, and that the people who work hard and pay into this plan are going to get their pensions when they retire. And he single-handedly went down to Springfield, talked to the legislative leaders, and got a bill passed where the district is a trailblazer in terms of making sure that not only are they in a firm financial footing now on their pensions, but they have a plan going forward to make sure that it's going to be done and not in a way that's going to adversely impact the taxpayer.
You know, the fact is people need to understand sometimes just because somebody calls themselves an environmentalist doesn't mean they really are. One of the things that I have learned in covering these stories is there's a lot of out-of-work lawyers, okay, who have nothing better to do that would like to call themselves an environmentalist, or perhaps somebody with the masters of creative writing, who goes about and becomes an environmentalist. If they're not really environmentalists, the fact is it's the engineers and the scientists that really understand the mechanics of what's going on. Okay, and Terry, in his spare time, is part owner of an environmental remediation firm. He really understands the science much better than most people do. And, you know, didn't waste a lot of money doing things. And in fact, when the government insists that he does things in a certain manner, he can actually find ways to save money on top of that and get their approval, which is no easy trick because there's $180 million that's about to get wasted here, literally, that the federal government's decreed that's going to go on your tax dollars. But
well, look at something, Avi, like the deep tunnel. This is something that's a practical benefit to every single person, where people who suffer from flooded basements and flooding in front of their homes, and having, you know, sewage and untreated water coming up through their standpipes. You know, Terry, the deep tunnel by and large has been completed under Terry's leadership. He worked with the Army Corps of Engineers. He'd go to Washington and talk to the elected officials and say this is important. And you know, I do take the press to task because they seem to concentrate when it comes to this area on peripheral things. You know, they're always talking about how government agencies should be run efficiently, should be run fairly, should be run in a way that is wise with the taxpayer dollar. Here's an agency, and here's somebody in Terry O'Brien who has done that every single day that they've been there. And instead of highlighting that, they go off on tangents and talk about things that really aren't core issues for the agency that he ran.
that's true, because they just don't consider him glib or chic enough, and that's too bad because there's real quality there that you guys missed. Not to mention the numbers of fish has just about tripled in the inland waterways from somewhere in the 20s to 68, and we're still waiting for that wild gefilte for 69. We've only got about a minute and a half here, Jim. I just want to say, from Jewish Chicago standpoint, pick it up everywhere. Some of the names I'd like to mention that I supported that aren't necessarily in Chicago are State Senate candidate Ari Friedman in the 29th, State Representative candidate Jonathan Greenberg, who's in the 57th. Those are the guys I'm really particularly fond of quite a bit. Jim will disagree with me on this one, of course, but in the 8th Senate District, I'm going to be writing in Tom Morris. And, you know, there's more races than that, but we're down to our last minute. So at this point, pick up Jewish Chicago. It's everywhere. The show will be on YouTube later today or tomorrow. I want to thank my co-host, Jim Nally. I also want to give special thanks to Sonny Hersh, who's our producer, to Dorothy Brown and Anita Alvarez. I also want to thank Keith McDonald, our technical whiz, and Tavares, who I'm meeting for the first time, who's been a great help, and thank you so much. And, you know, I hope you guys will check out the Northtown News Magazine every Thursday at 7:30, Friday at 2:30. Pick up Jewish Chicago on newsstands everywhere. If you can't find it, go to AviWorld, as in my name, AVYWORLD.com, or hit our news site at ntnm.org. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Jim, thank you so much again.
It's always a great
time.
The time.
Same here. And thank all of you for joining us. Thank Anita Alvarez. Thank Dorothy Brown. And thank all of you for watching, everybody. And